Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. We'll give everybody just a second to join the show and join the platform and make sure everybody's devices are up. Make sure the streaming is going well, your internet's working because we have a monster show here on MHI. It's a Wednesday night here in Broncos country, and the Denver Broncos are trending, Tom. It's a historic day in franchise history as the ride might officially be over for Russell Wilson. Before we get into that, what's up, everybody? He is Thomas Hall. I am Luke Patterson. Scott Kennedy with us on the ones and twos. It's MHI on your Wednesday night. Tom, I don't know about you, but I found myself glued to the cell phone, glued to the laptop, to social media, to everything that's going on with the benching of Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty much off of social media for a while. After the Patriots game, I was like, I'm done with Vance Joseph. I'm done with Russell Wilson. I'm done with Sean Payton. And frankly, I'm done with this team, man. I've invested 40 years of my life in this team. And after the Patriots game, I was like, you know what? It's like one of those bad, those bad things that happen when people are old and they've been married for a long time. They're like, you know what? It was great while it happened, but it's time to stop investing so much time in it. So that's where I was at. I was just like not even engaging in anything on social media. And then of course this happens. I was like, well, I guess I should maybe engage a little bit. So that's
Kath. That's where Kathy's at. She's like, "Hey guys, what happened? Nothing's going on today, right?" Thank you, Kathy. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours, by the way. Yeah. In case you've lived under a rock for just a few hours, or I don't know if you went to a long movie, a dinner, you went skiing, hunting, what have you. The Broncos have officially, what I want to say, buried. They buried Russell Wilson on the depth chart. He's going to be the backup quarterback this week against the Chargers, the backup quarterback, presumably against the Raiders. And then right before we go on this show, there are reports being leaked that Russell Wilson expects to be released before the March deadline, in which this team would owe approximately $36 million onto the 2025 contract. Tom, Russell Wilson, he gets benched. Did he deserve it? Sean Payton immediately comes out, gets to his sources today, says, I'm thinking about doing this. 15 minutes later, he does it. Russell Wilson, backup quarterback. Jarrett Stidham getting the start. What do you make of this whole thing? Did Russ deserve it?
Well, he hasn't been playing that great for sure. I don't think the marriage between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson really was great. I think a lot has to do with both of them. Moving on from him when you're kind of still maybe in the playoff race was weird. I mean, if you're going to do it, why did you wait until now when you had a chance to go to the playoffs? I don't know. Stidham to me isn't the answer. Moving on from Russell Wilson to Stidham, yeah, he might win a game and he might look good for a game, but I've seen him. You've seen him. We saw him at camp. He's terrible. So this moving on from him to go to Stidham is not about winning. It's about not having a huge financial burden down the road, which, it's a business. You got to make that business decision. So that's where the Broncos are at.
Well, what's funny about it is Coach Sean Payton was asked about it today, and he said, well, we're just looking for a spark. And Sean Payton today, obviously confident, a little nervous, I would say, a little unsure of himself. You could tell that when he gets up there that he doesn't necessarily want to meet these questions. But Sean Payton today, when asked about benching quarterback Russell Wilson.
We made a change at quarterback. And I understand all the speculation and everything that surrounds a move like that. And I can tell you, look, we're desperately trying to win, and sure, in our game today, there are economics and all those other things, but the number one push behind this, and it's a decision I'm making, is to, get a spark offensively. But this is about now, and this is about trying to get our 8th win, and we'll go from there. Most of you know.
It's about winning now, Tom, for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. Now, I believe, Coach, he wants to get a win. You want to finish the last game at home with a dub. The Broncos are 4-4 right now at home, folks. They have not played very well in Denver. It is critical that the Broncos win at home. They need to start this moving forward now. Why? It's not going to matter. They're not going to the playoffs. I know, 5% chance, but you have to carry something through to next year. You need to figure out if you actually have a nucleus on this football team right now. So do I believe that Sean Payton wants to play Jarrett Stidham just to stick it to the Chargers? No. Do I believe him when he says, I need to win, we need to win, my job's at stake? Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you, if it's all about winning, right? If it's about winning, why didn't they make a waiver claim on one of the 2 defensive tackles that were made available when they knew their run defense is porous as a sieve, right? Like, I mean, if this is all about winning, there should have been some other moves made in there. I think Sean Payton's just saying what he's saying just to kind of push off all of the real reasons for doing this. This is an economic, financial decision for the business. It has nothing to do with winning. Maybe he'll like hope that Stidham can come in and make something happen and get a win in there. But the reality is what Sean Payton was saying and what's actually happening right now are 2 separate things. And
well, you're exactly right. It's not about winning because Russell Wilson hasn't won with the Denver Broncos. He's 11-19 in 2 seasons, 2 different coaches. So there hasn't been a lot of winning. That we agree on. Michael Rinquillo, we also agree that Michael is one of our biggest friends and supporters of the show. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and yours, Mike. Good evening, Thomas and Luke on the Mile High Insiders. Go Broncos. And Michael is riding with these Broncos till the bitter end, as is our friend Casey Nickel. Casey had just hit me up over on X right before we went on the show. Thank you for joining MHI, and we really appreciate your support, Casey. It's time to move on. Russell couldn't use the middle of the field. He ran into sacks, couldn't climb the pocket, never threw to Judy, and fumbled too much. He also missed wide open touchdown passes and also held on to the ball. Casey sounding off on Russell Wilson, rather. And Tom, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, the excessive holding onto the ball, the constant need to want to get out, climbing the pocket's just something that has not been natural for Russell Wilson ever since college. I think at a certain point, his height does come into play a little bit, not being able to see in that pocket, not being able to see wide receivers, as Casey is headlining here in his super chat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of he's had these same problems his whole career, though. Like, it wasn't when they traded for Russell Wilson, all of a sudden he just now has all these problems. He's had them his entire career. He fumbled. He had a hard time seeing the middle of the field, right? I mean, they were there. The thing about it is now, from my perspective, is you bench Russ, you're gonna get rid of him, you're gonna move on. What is Sean Payton's grand plan? Frankly, he doesn't have one because he didn't have one when he was in New Orleans. When at the end of Drew Brees' career, his plan was to load up on free agents, crush the salary cap, and then jump ship when that didn't work, when they were saddled with a huge salary cap burden. I don't trust Sean Payton has this grand plan. I think he just benched Russ. Financial decision, going to go Stidham this year, and then what? What's going to happen?
Should he have a grand plan, Tom? Because
yes.
last week, really though, listen though, no. Because last week this team was a playoff team, right? This team was okay, win out. They're going to go to the playoffs. That was the plan. Sean Payton now needs to figure out a new plan, and a losing quarterback that constantly coughs up the football, that has no idea the stage or the moment. I mean, that's just the biggest catalyst for me. So I agree with you. I don't think Sean Payton has a plan right now, but should he? I mean, he was thinking about riding into the playoffs with Russell Wilson, 5-game winning streak and all that. The Broncos are 1-3 in their last 4 games, and Russell Wilson is a major reason because of that.
Do you really think Sean Payton was trying to get into the playoffs, though? I mean, to my earlier point, they had a chance to fix run defense, and they didn't even try. They didn't even take a waiver claim on 2 defensive tackles who were made available, who were cheap. They weren't a huge amount of money to sign. He could have went after them, but they didn't. So
he also could have traded Jerry Jeudy.
Getting to the playoffs.
He also could have traded Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, and
He
didn't.
could have done a lot of things.
I think right, but we all praised him, right? I'm saying I wasn't happy about it. I was the only one in this whole damn city that was upset that they hung on to some of the players that they should have moved on from, Jerry Jeudy being one of them. I think Sean Payton, against his better nature, I think he's went out of his way to accommodate Russell Wilson. That being said, Sean Payton has had some bonehead moments this year, Tom. You are absolutely right. Not challenging some of these plays in Detroit, taking out your frustrations on Russ. Some of these things, you're absolutely right. Sean Payton needs to get it together, and he needs to look in the mirror. I do think he took some accountability. I think he was very complimentary of Russ. It's always easy to compliment a guy when you're benching him, right? But it's just it's one of these crazy things that we are getting into. That craziness. Russell Wilson being benched by the Denver Broncos. He's expecting to be cut in March. What are those ramifications going to look like? We will get into that and more. But before we do, let's get into Snarky User $5 Super. The meeting was on October 31st, the trade deadline. My guess is the unnamed party was another NFL team. If so, they were looking to trade Russ. That's what we're doing right now, Snarky, right? We're all trying to figure out these reports. There are reports out there, Tom, that the Broncos asked Russell Wilson to waive, to adjust, to somehow get out ahead of that injury clause in his current contract. Russ didn't want to do it. Who could blame him? So now we're starting to find out some of the facts, some of the reports, speculate as best we can.
Yeah, thanks, Snarky, for that comment. Yeah, we'll never probably really know. There'll be a lot of rumors and this and that, but obviously they weren't happy with his contract. That seals the fate for George Payton, number one. He's probably not going to be back. So this is the thing. This is what I'm, when I started off saying I'm just done with the team, after 40 years, it looks to me like the next 3 to 4 years it's going to be more of the same. That's what it looks like.
You're hurt. You're disappointed. They've hurt you.
I'm not. I'm not like bitter about. Oh, I got to sit for another 3 or 4 years of losing. It's just it's time. It's like, okay, it's just time. I just I've had enough. Right. I've been through miserable Super Bowls. I've been through some poor seasons, but it's one of those things. And I just don't. The problem is I don't see a plan. There is no plan, because if I look at Sean Payton's track record, he has not done anything to develop a quarterback. He got Drew Brees. Now, maybe another Drew Brees will fall into his lap somehow. I don't know. But from my perspective, Sean Payton has no plan, and he doesn't develop quarterbacks, not as a head coach, even as a quarterback coach. You go look at back the young quarterbacks he's had. He has not done anything with them.
I'll say this. He's gotten them paid. He's gotten them paid. When you look at Teddy Bridgewater, Taysom Hill, and Jameis Winston, say what you want about all of them.
Let's look at Jameis Winston and Teddy Bridgewater.
They've been paid,
Jameis Winston got worse in every metric except for basically interceptions. He was throwing throwing at least 60, actually 80 yards per game less. He had less. Percentage.
No one's advocating for him. That's where everyone misses my point.
I'm just saying, like, Sean Payton's QB guru. He's done really little.
Is he not? He's taken chicken, and turned it into chicken salad. He's done it with those 3 quarterbacks. He just did it with Russ. And I'm sorry that's not good enough. Sometimes you need talent. You're always screaming at me, we need talent.
Yes.
You know who's got talent? You know who has our back? Our friends over at Little Caesars, guys. Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, part of your official game day. Guys, the holidays, they're just about wrapping up. New Year's plans are coming around. The kids are making plans. You and your friends are making plans. Make Little Caesars a part of your New Year's Eve plans this Sunday. Order online during the Pizza pregame, 1 hour before, 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day on Sunday. Get ready for some football. Get ready for some fun.
And choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza, or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. I mean, there's all sorts of toppings. I've said it plenty of times. I'm a meat lovers guy, but you can try anything. There's many to try. Go out and give it a shot. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game.
Boom. Little Caesars, they have our back, just like you guys all have our back on MHI every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain. He is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. Scott riding with us as well. Naj, a good friend of ours and a good friend of the show. Appreciate you joining us. Happy holidays to you and yours. Hey, brothers, it's another dark chapter we are living through, but I get it. Just not a fit for Peyton's scheme. Now it's 100% on Sean Payton to maximize lower contract players, or we're in for more pain. You have to hope for the best. Naj, you're exactly right. Hopefully this is an end to a dark chapter with Russell Wilson here. But Tom, the pain's not going to stop just when Russell Wilson's no longer in the building. Tell us why.
Well, because there's not enough talent on this team to compete otherwise. I mean,
how about the contract? Give me some numbers. Hit me with some numbers.
Well, they're going to be carrying what, 87 million or 83 million over 2 years. So they're not going to go out and get free agents. They're going to have to try and luck out in the draft. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of experts that analyze the draft, but if you look at the numbers, people luck out, right? That's how it works. So they're going to have to luck out in the draft. They're going to hopefully get a young rookie QB that turns out. But here's the problem, and this is, Naj, I'm glad you said this, just not a fit for Peyton's scheme. True, he's not, but that's the problem. If you can't find the perfect fit like Drew Brees was for Peyton's scheme, how good is this team going to be? Is Sean Payton going to be flexible enough to actually work a new offense that fits the quarterback that he's playing? That's the question I have. Yeah, that's why I don't know.
He just did it with Russ. He's done it with Russ all season long.
The offense was terrible.
Right, but that's Russell's fault. Sean's not out there.
It's part Peyton's fault too. Peyton,
a little bit.
They're both at fault.
Peyton's fault when caught up a fumble on every sack. Defenders aren't even being taught to bring Russ down anymore. Just peanut punch that Tillman ball out of there, and it's coming. That blank look on his face, the lack of passion and fire. I mean, good Lord. Kathy coming in here, getting some passion of her own as Tom and I yell at each other about Russell Wilson getting benched. Hi, Thomas and Luke. Russell Wilson gone. No more Band-Aid quarterbacks, please. And Kathy's exactly right, Tom. I think that's why you're frustrated. That's why I'm frustrated. Like, okay, look, Russ is gone, and we're closing that dark chapter, as Naj just said. Now Kathy's saying, look, okay, I'm looking forward to the future, but what's that future look like? It's tough. There's not a plan right now. I agree with you. Sean Payton needs a plan. Kathy agrees with us. Sean Payton needs a Broncos country knows there needs to be a plan. Otherwise, the retread quarterback Elway way will continue to haunt the Broncos. Here's why there's not a plan. Everyone that's here will no longer be here in 2 weeks. George Payton is likely on his way out. You said so yourself. So how is Sean Payton and this ownership group supposed to have a plan with 2 weeks to go when they've all finally just decided, look, Russ isn't the answer. This is the way we're going to go. You want to talk plan? I think that was the plan, brother. I really do. Sean came in here. He evaluated Russ for a year. He ran the most elementary, basic offense that he could, and Russ did it kind of well, almost winning, not quite. And I just think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, but then what's next? That's what I'm talking about. What's next? They knew that that Russ Wilson wasn't going to be in their plan. They back in October, the rumors are coming out that they had approached him to change stuff. They knew he was going to be gone. So they've had a chance to make this plan, but instead they're just like, well, we'll just go with what we got and then we'll just figure it out on the way.
What should they have done?
But what they're going to do is Sean Payton's going to fall back on his old, standby and try and get another free agent that he can make magic with, like Drew Brees, because he can't develop a quarterback. So guess what? They're going to do Band-Aids. They're going to try and bring in a free agent and see if they can make some wins happen over the next year before they realize the talent around this team isn't very good. And the coaching is, from the defensive side, is subpar. I'm sorry, Vance Joseph doesn't need an apology because his defense was really crappy the last few weeks. And so then what are they going to do? They're going to keep Band-Aiding this thing, just like Kathy said, until they realize, oh, man, we should probably find a quarterback somehow. Well, if they're going to patch it together and win, 8 games, 6 games, they're not going to get a top quarterback. So they're going to be.
It sounds to me like you don't want Sean Payton here, Tom. And the reason I'm saying that is this. You're telling me he can't draft a quarterback, and then you're telling me he shouldn't go out and get a retread quarterback. So, I mean, what's he supposed to do? Should they go trade for something else? I mean, he should absolutely draft a rookie quarterback. He should absolutely evaluate the free agent market. And you know what? The cap penalty, that's actually going to keep him honest. I think that's actually maybe that might be looked at as a positive around here. Instead of going out on these huge spending sprees, Mike McGlinchey, come on, Sean, that was your guy. I'm sticking up for Sean Payton. Sean Payton just had to have Mike McGlinchey, Tom, and you and I haven't seen it all season. KB82 coming in here real quick, a $4.99 super. Jarrett Stidham, the dude is a high-end third stringer, low-end second. Let Russ play it out.
Look, I get why they don't want him to play. They don't want him to get hurt. He's not in their plans. They don't want to be on the hook for that money. I get the business decision side of it. Totally.
Yeah.
But in a business, you should have a future plan. I don't see it. I mean, other than Drew Brees, and I'm giving Sean Payton credit for developing Drew Brees into a Hall of Fame quarterback. Don't get me wrong. It was a perfect marriage. But other than that, you look at all the quarterbacks that he's had in the sparing amount of time that they had, they either stayed the same or got worse with Sean Payton, going all the way back to New York, the Giants when he was with with Jim Fassel. They had a couple young quarterbacks. Ty Detmer got worse. Bobby Hoying got worse. He even had Drew Henson in Dallas that he couldn't develop, who was supposedly a number 1 draft choice coming out that went to baseball instead, came into Dallas and was a flop. Couldn't get a second rounder and Quincy Carter to be any better. I'm just saying he's going to hope that another Drew Brees falls into his lap. That's a perfect marriage for him. But guess what? That doesn't happen very often. Denver got lucky with Peyton Manning. Huge. That doesn't happen. And they got lucky with Drew Brees. That rarely happens. So that's what I'm saying is, if it's a business decision, let's have a future plan in place. Now it seems like we're going to just see what Stidham has to offer, which we already know what Stidham has to offer. He's not.
It's like I'm fighting with my wife, and you only want to talk about the past right now, Tom. I want to talk about the future, baby. Just like I want to hear from. That's what. There is no future. That's why I want to hear from the great one. $5 super. You got to feel bad for Russ. Sure, he wasn't the answer, but the handling of the situation has been extremely unprofessional. I completely disagree with this great one. 100%. I appreciate you joining the show. Here is why. Russell Wilson is getting paid. He is not feeling bad. He is not feeling sorry. A little embarrassed, maybe, but head on over to Russell Wilson's social media. He's liking articles and tweets as we speak, talking about how he's had a great season. You can miss Russ. You can be a fan of Russ. I'm not telling you shouldn't. Hell, I think Russell Wilson will play NFL football in 2024. I'm not going to say he's going to go out and get a starting contract. I'm not going to say he's going to be a Super Bowl contender. I do think that quarterback talent is lacking so much in this league that it is extremely hard to hit on a quarterback, which is why you see these retreads over and over again. It's why I think the Titans or the Commanders would be a team that I think might kick the can down the road on Russ for a team-friendly deal if Russ can do it. That is technically still a possibility in play. I don't think the Broncos are going to find a suitor. Russ would have to completely rework his deal, NBA sign and trade kind of things. It just gets messy. I think when you have the richest ownership group in professional sports, they're willing to ride out George Payton's mistake. I don't think George will be here. Nature of the beast. I will say this. George Payton's the devil for the Russell Wilson thing, right? But we were all excited. Who saw this coming? George Payton also, he brought Jonathan Cooper here, Baron Browning here, Pat Surtain, Quinn Miners. There have been a lot of mistakes, expensive mistakes from George Payton. Looking at Randy Gregory too, right? But it's interesting to see if Sean Payton wants to move forward with George. Sean was at least talking about that today up at the presser. I got to talk with George and get with Greg and yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you talked with Russ today too. And now Russ is out of a job. So it's kind of interesting when you look at the whole thing. Naj weighing back in another generous $20. Tom, this is for you, big guy. Thomas, I do think that the Broncos have a plan, but I don't have any confidence that it's a good one. These dead cap hits will be absolutely crushing. We just don't have enough premium draft picks. All we have is hope, and all that has brought is pain. Damn.
Yeah, and first of all, I don't feel bad for Russell Wilson. I mean,
No.
I was hoping he would. I mean, I've been laid off, and for doing my job right, and he's getting fired for doing his job wrong, and he's got $250 million to lay back on, right? So I don't feel bad for him at all.
He'll be all right.
But my problem is going forward, right? I mean, this has happened. We see the writing on the wall. We know where this is going. There's a split between Russ is not coming back. It's Sean Payton's show now. And like Naj said, does he have a valid plan? Does he have a plan at all? Is it a good plan? Or like he said, are they just going to hope for the best, right? Like try and draft somebody at the position they're drafting in the first round. I don't have a lot of hopes on who they'd be getting to step in. I mean, it's like a Bo Nix kind of area, right? You get Bo Nix from what I'm not a QB guru, but seems like he gets a little afraid in the pocket and makes some pretty bad decisions as well. So, I mean, I don't know what you're going to get. Hopefully you luck out, I guess is what you're thinking. So I don't know. I would like to know what the plan is, because Stidham is not the plan. I'm sorry. I know you gave him $10 million.
Just because you don't like the plan doesn't mean that's not the plan. I mean, we were all scratching our heads.
I want a good plan.
I know, but we got to give Sean Payton some time here. Seriously, we do, folks. He was the best coach ever during the winning streak. Now he's the devil because he's mean for benching Russ. Russell Wilson has not been playing winning football. Period. The Denver Broncos haven't been playing winning football. I've been trying to explain to the masses this is not what a playoff team looks like the last 3 weeks. It is what it is. It's messy. It's going to be interesting to find out what that plan is. But the Broncos, here's why we're frustrated. Here's why we're yelling at each other. We have 2 more weeks to go, Tom. We have to endure the rest of this season before we can get a glimpse of what next year's looking like. At least it's starting now, right? I know March doesn't happen this Sunday when the Broncos are probably going to release Russ, but it's starting that. It's a mess. Things are a mess here in Broncos country. It's been a roller coaster of a ride. Who knows what these next 2 weeks are going to bring? Can you imagine if Jarrett Stidham wins these next 2 games, Tom? Then we're arguing, is Jarrett Stidham the answer? KB82, Kenneth coming right back in. Thanks, Ken. $1.99. Does Jaden Daniels fall to us, or do we trade up? Ken, it's so hard to see this team trying to give away any more than it already has. At a certain point, when George Payton eventually loses his job, because I think that's what's going to happen, Sean is going to have full control, just like he has full control now. And the Greg Penner, Walton ownership group are going to have to eventually come to Sean and say, look, we have a limit. This is the spending limit. All right, here's the spending limit on the Visa card, Sean. Don't go over. We can't go over because before you got here, George Payton put us into such credit card debt that the interest is huge for the next few years. That's called the cap hit, something you've been cautioning everybody about for as long as we've been on MHI on these Wednesday nights. Kathy circling around back in. Thanks so much, Kathy. It's great to hear from you. Next guy on the bus out of Denver, George Payton. Tom, this is his mess. All of it.
Yep. Yeah, he's gone. And you're gonna see other people gone too. It's not just George Payton. You're gonna see probably Vance Joseph gone. Then player-wise, you're going to probably have to cut Garrett Bowles. You're probably going to have to cut DJ Jones. You're probably going to have to try and trade Jerry Jeudy. You're basically getting rid of, because your dead cap hit is all tied up in the quarterback. And now you don't have that quarterback on the team. So they're going to have to figure out the cap other ways, and they can't keep pushing this stuff off, right? I mean, it's going to, just like Sean Payton did in New Orleans, kept trying to win a Super Bowl by, pushing everything off until it finally came to, chickens came home to roost, so to speak.
But Tom, he hasn't been here a whole season yet, and you're willing to just say Sean Payton's can't figure it out?
Well,
Sean hasn't drafted a quarterback. Sean hasn't drafted a quarterback worthy to win the Super Bowl. How many coaches have? Quick, off the top of your head. Andy Reid, 1.
So they've got, I mean, obviously you've drafted, Pat Mahomes. I'm not saying that it's easy to do. I'm not saying it's easy to do. In fact, I've been saying it's hard to do. So people that are just like, oh, well, let's get rid of Russell Wilson and go get a rookie quarterback because that's going to solve it all. It's not going to happen. But the problem is Sean Payton has not shown a track record of getting a young quarterback and doing anything with him. That's my fear, right? Yeah, sure, he'll go draft a 3rd-round quarterback like Garrett Grayson, who won't play a single down for the team. That's my fear.
Right, but that's like me saying, just because I've never gotten a speeding ticket means I'll never get one. Am I
If you
right?
don't speed, you won't.
If I don't speed, right. But if I don't draft quarterbacks, I'm never going to be able to take that. If I don't drive, I'll never get one. Right. I mean, like, I hear you. I do. Yeah. You can't be ignorant to the past. You're 100% right. But isn't that why you're paying Sean Payton all this money? We had our suspicions that there was a possibility that this wouldn't work. Fixing Russell Wilson was the objective. And I think we just actually saw, instead of it being a failure or a success, they just don't fit. You can win, they can work together, but it's not the recipe for a championship team or a playoff team. Hell, a winning team is something I think Broncos country would at least be okay with over at this point. Addison weighing in a $4.99 super. Thank you so much, Addison. Hey guys, I like this move. I bet Jerry Jeudy has a monster last 2 games with Jarrett Stidham. Finally have the ball be thrown to the middle of the field.
That'll be perfect because it'll up his trade value when they need to trade him in the offseason. So it'd be great. I hope he does. I hope Jerry Jeudy has 2 huge games and people are like, oh, we'll give you a bunch for him so that the Broncos can actually recoup some of the draft capital that they've spent the last couple of years trying to win. Now, I see people in the chat telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, whatever. I went back and looked. I don't know if you guys have went back and looked at all the quarterbacks that Sean Payton has had at his disposal since he was the quarterback coach way back when. I did. I went and looked at him. Whether you think I'm just flapping my gums or not, at least I went and did the research. He has not developed a young quarterback, and the quarterback that he's had has not gotten.
No, we believe you. We believe you. And we hear you. Right. Drew Brees. We hear you. We know who that is, Tom. Nobody's mistaking you, and nobody is camouflaging that as anything different than what it is. What people are, I think, frustrated with, and what I'm frustrated with, is you're saying that Sean Payton has never developed a quarterback, right? That's what you're saying. He's never developed a quarterback. Okay, you're right. He's never developed a quarterback. Does that mean he can't?
No.
Does that mean he won't? Not. Okay, so shouldn't we give the man a little bit of time, like at least till the end of the season, before we're raking him over the coals saying he doesn't have a plan for Russell Wilson? I think he's followed the plan to a T. When he got hired, when the Penners traded for him and helped bring him over here, and yeah, they gave George Payton some credit, but when you want something, you're going to buy it. And that's exactly what the Penner ownership did. They bought Sean Payton. When they bought Sean Payton, this was the plan. Let me see what I have. The plan changed, Tom. Mean old Sean Payton that never wants to bend on anything. He's bent a lot this year. So much so that we're looking at this elementary offense. We're looking at guys not getting traded at the trade deadline. We're looking at a playoff run. So while I hear you, Sean hasn't developed a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Not many guys have out there, period, in the NFL, let alone in this AFC West. I think it's worth giving him the opportunity to do so.
But that's what I'm trying to say is what is happening right now is another 2 to 3 years at the minimum of mediocre football for Broncos country. That's what I'm trying to say here. We're going to watch Sean Payton give it a whirl and see what happens while all the fans sit back and watch more Broncos mediocrity at best for 2 to 3 years. Great. If he happens to find one and he makes it big, great, good, great. That will be 9 to 10 years of mediocre football in Denver Broncos in Mile High. In the Mile High,
you
City.
You said it'd be 2 to 3. Last time I checked, 2 to 3 years. That's how long it takes to develop a quarterback.
Sure. And we just watched 7 years of mediocrity. So we're going to.
What would you rather do? Ride with Russ? Do you want to ride with him in the?
I'm just saying, like to take Russ. What you're doing by doing this, you're cutting Russ. Now you've handcuffed yourself to the quarterback position. A huge amount of money in the quarterback position with zero options going forward. That's what I'm saying. And the rest of the team's not going to get better because you have this magnificent, huge cap hit that you can't do anything with. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know what the plan is. I just want to know what the plan is. What is the plan? I don't think he has one. That's my problem.
Phil McLaughlin weighing in. Good evening, Thomas, Luke, and Deegan Scott. I think it's ridiculous to bench your starter when the playoffs are still possible. Even though a dream, I think that benching Russ is a direct way to tell players to shape up or you will be gone. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag go Broncos. Yeah, Phil, some of these Broncos that are gone land in greener grasses, right? Like a Kareem Jackson. Suddenly you're in the playoffs with the your former teammate, Tom. How about that? That's kind of a cool little nugget, right? Kareem used to play with D'Amico Ryans. Now D'Amico Ryans is his head coach down there in Houston. Kareem Jackson, K-Jack. See you later. Enjoy the playoffs. Look, I think players are going to continue to be evaluated, and Coach Sean Payton was asked about that today. You know, does Jarrett Stidham potentially give you an opportunity to see what else you have on this roster? And we've gotten 2 comments tonight. Jerry Jeudy's going to have a breakout game. Like you said, Tom, I hope you're right. I'm not holding my breath. And to be honest, I don't really care if he does or if he doesn't. I want to see some of the guys that we don't know a lot about. Can we see more little Jordan Humphrey? That would be nice. One of my keys to victory this week, I mean, let's talk about the defensive young bucks. I want to see Riley Moss play more. I want to see some more of Drew Sanders. I want to see some more of these young guys. This is the time to do it. I hear you. 5% chance. You don't want to quit on the fan base. You do not want to quit. There's been too much quitting in this organization as it goes, but it's just, I think, a frustrating benchmark is where we're all kind of at right now, because Tom, you're right. The Broncos, no matter what direction they go in, they draft the quarterback, they sign a big one, they trade for one, they keep Russ. Look, we know that they're far away right now from a Super Bowl, and I think that's the most frustrating part. Drake Wally weighing in a $9.99 super. I am so confused. Russ was on the rebound, and due to an injury clause, he's done? I don't know. I thought he was the closest thing to Breeze, only more mobility. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, he wasn't. He was a completely different style of quarterback. Drew Brees was a quick, high volume passer, and Russell Wilson was not that. He liked to throw deep. He liked to be on the move, and he liked to, create something out of nothing. He wasn't really good at He never was really good at just standing in the pocket and waiting for something to develop to throw it quickly. He didn't have that knack. And when people are upset that he isn't the quarterback that is like Peyton Manning. Well, when you traded for him, you weren't getting Peyton. You were getting Russell Wilson, which is what he was. Although I think he was more gun shy after taking all those sacks. But don't get me wrong. You're going to have to move on from Russell Wilson. It's just that I think this was decided a long time ago that they were going to do it. They just happened to have a win streak in there to cause a little bit of havoc with their getting rid of him to begin with. I think if they'd have lost a couple more games in there instead of going on a 5-game win streak, you'd have saw Russ benched earlier. I guess the problem I have with it is, yes, I think that Sean Payton kind of tweaked his game plan a little bit to accommodate Russell Wilson, but he didn't go all in either. I don't think he went all in to try and accommodate all of Russell Wilson's lack of strengths or accentuated strengths. But he's definitely a different quarterback than Drew Brees, and he isn't a good fit. He just isn't, even though he was having a little bit of a bounce back year. I just don't. And, I've said it before. What is the plan? You're going to get rid of a ton of players next year in order to make this cap hit work. So what is the plan?
What is the plan? That is what we are trying to figure out here on MHI. He is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. We're trying to answer the question, what does the future look like without Russell Wilson? Well, we know it's going to be expensive. He's still on the Broncos. He's going to be backing up Jarrett Stidham the next 2 weeks. It'll be weird, right? You're looking at the Broncos. Here's something else we haven't talked about real quick, Tom. The Broncos just lost 2 team captains in a sense. Kareem Jackson's with the Houston Texans. Russell Wilson's been benched. So you and I on these airwaves, we like to bicker and get after each other all day, every day. However, we both have been consistent as long as the day is long. This team has not had any leaders. Now you're looking at a couple captains that are potentially on their way out. That leadership void remains. What's it going to look like? Let us know in the comment section. Let us know what you think about Russell Wilson being benched as we move along. Naj coming right back in, the trifecta. Thank you, Naj. Brothers, this is Stidham's chance, and what an opportunity it is. Also, great opportunity for Johnson, Judy, and Mims. Have to ball out these last 2 games. I think they must focus on defense in this draft and maybe take a flyer on a quarterback. Naj, you're bringing up an interesting angle, and I'm glad that you're doing it. Tom, what if? I mean, we've seen crazy things being Broncos fans, right? I mean, really crazy things. We're seeing them right now. Russell Wilson's about to get released with a contract that hasn't even kicked in yet. That's where we're at right now, Tom. Jarrett Stidham could be the answer, right? I mean, like, sure, he had some bad practices out there in camp, and you and I had some colorful words under our breath and on our notepads. But look, I mean, I don't think we're going to see the second coming of Pat Mahomes, right? We're always talking about Pat Mahomes out there and Jarrett Stidham, right? He's 14 games in his career, I think, under 1,000 yards. He's almost 50% touchdown interception ratio. I think it's like 6 touchdowns, 7 picks, something like that. Sean Payton wanted him, right? So here's your plan. Want to talk about short-term plans? Sean, let's see how good of a quarterback evaluator we are. Maybe we don't need to wait till the offseason, Tom. That's our mistake here on this show. We need to hold coach accountable right now. He had to have Jarrett Stidham. He had to have him, Tom. $10 million, $5 million guaranteed for 2 years. Let's see it. Let's see what Jarrett Stidham can do with Sean Payton. 2 games, is that enough? It's a hell of an opportunity.
Well, he could very well win these next 2 games. I mean, they're going to go up against Easton Stick and a Raiders team who has an intern coach and a rookie quarterback. He could very well actually win these games, and then we could be excited and think Stidham's the answer, and then I'll come back down to earth next year when we realize he's not. But I mean, I hope that they win these last 2 games. That would be great for Broncos country. But I don't know. I mean, the team doesn't have a lot of talent, really, from my perspective, across the board. And to answer that question, they're going to be needing a left tackle in the draft. They're going to need at least 2 new defensive linemen in the draft, or find them somewhere. And they got to find a new cornerback opposite of Patrick Surtain. Just name the main players. Not to mention they need inside linebackers and probably a running back who can actually make some damage in the run game. There's a lot of holes on this team. Russell Wilson wasn't the only problem, I should say. Russell Wilson was a problem. This team has a lot of problems.
A lot of problems. You know who's never a problem, always a problem solver for us on MHI is our guy, Stu McPeak, man. Happy holidays to you and yours. Hopefully you guys had a fantastic Christmas and a happy New Year, Stu. Hey, all. I feel like Broncos country is living Groundhog Day. Man, Tom, you're on Facebook, right? I know we're Facebook buddies, so I know you've seen this feature. You ever get into the memories section on Facebook?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't use Facebook hardly at all.
You're better off.
I don't know anything about it.
You're better off, Tom, because I do. I get in my memories section, and Stu, I don't know if you do, Broncos country, maybe you do. And lately, it's been a lot of old nightmares coming back in these Facebook memories. Like, remember Rich Scangarello and talking about balling out with Drew Lock and being a gunslinger? That popped up the other day.
Nice.
Some guy named Joe Flacco popped up the other day. Vance Joseph, is he going to get fired? That popped up the other day. Stu, you're exactly right. It's Groundhog Day over and over. They've got to figure it out. I think the plan right now is Sean Payton, right? That's what the ownership's growing with, that we hired this guy. He's got to figure it out. They have to help him, because if they squarely put this on Sean Payton, he will fail. That is why the Dallas Cowboys are never going to win another Super Bowl under the Jones family, period. You get these meddlesome owners that get in the way. I don't think the Broncos are going to do that. However, you also have to have a front office staff that's all on the same page. Is George Payton going to survive that or not? We don't know. That kind of remains to be seen. But, Tom, you're exactly right. Quarterback is not the only hole. Offensive line has got to get figured out. Left tackle's an issue. Right tackle's an issue. You better start developing some players. Is Lloyd Cushenberry going to stick around? You need wideouts. You need tight ends. Groundhog Day. Stu, you want to talk about Groundhog Day? Let's talk about Broncos tight ends that are never healthy. Ever. When is the last time the Broncos had a tight end that was healthy, that was worth the squirt of you-know-what in the bucket? I mean, it's some of these same problems. Maybe that's one thing that was different this year, Tom. We didn't see the same old injuries over and over.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was good. There are some good things to think about on this team, right? Injuries, good. They are going to have to hit in the next couple drafts. That's there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because they are going to be cap constrained. They have to hit on the draft. It's not easy. I'm just going to tell you right now. It's not easy to hit on the draft. So they're going to have to be lucky in order to turn this thing around more quickly than people are imagining, because they have to get younger. They have to get more talent, and they can't go out and spend money in free agency like they did last year.
Younger / cheaper. That's
Yes,
what
exactly.
that means. Because whenever, and I think people need to hear that, Tom, and I know it sounds ridiculous when I say that, but when we say you need to get younger, you need to have sustainable players on rookie contracts, because that's where the team is truly built. When you look at this whole grand scheme of things, and I know the free agency sweepstakes is always awesome and it's fun to read over at milehighhuddle.com every spring, but at the same time, it's expensive. It's super expensive. And we just saw the Broncos, Tom, as you know, remember when they were the biggest spender in free agency? Here they are. Now they're still the biggest spender, only they're going to be spending money on a quarterback that they're waving goodbye to, as the reports are flooding in that amid Russell Wilson's benching today, the veteran quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback, expects to be released by the Broncos this March. Ty Y coming in, $1.99 super. Julius Thomas, the last good tight end. The last good tight end, but if memory serves, he was always banged up too. You always had to have Virgil Green somewhat around and available during those years before Virgil went over to the Chargers, ironically, as we play the Chargers. That's just it, though. And I mean, Ty, you're proving a point. Some of these problems at these positions have plagued this team for years. It's not just at quarterback, and maybe that's some of this fan base's fatigue, Tom. We're still talking about right tackle. We're still talking about wide receiver. We're still talking about wanting an athletic linebacker. Another pass rusher not named Von Miller or Bradley Chubb. That'd be nice. What's that look like?
Well, there's two things right there. You know, they're looking for edge rush help now, and they jettisoned a future Hall of Famer and a first round draft choice to go with Randy Gregory, who got cut. I mean, George Payton has made some mistakes. Don't get me wrong. And I'm going to read Phil McLaughlin's comment here. Thanks, Phil, for coming in. Let's face it. There's a possibility Payton is Belichick. No Brady, no Breeze, failure. I'll just say this. Most coaches are not very good if they don't have an elite quarterback for a long period of time. The only one I can really think of is Joe Gibbs, who was able to win 3 Super Bowls with quarterbacks who weren't that great, or they had a team that had an all-world defense, right? But most coaches kind of fall down after their Hall of Fame quarterback leaves. So I can't fault either of those for, if they don't find that quarterback. My issue is what is Peyton going to do going forward? I don't see a plan because they got so much tied up in the quarterback position. They're not going to go out and get a free agent. They've got to get lucky in the draft, because a first round quarterback isn't a guarantee of being a great quarterback on a cheap deal. It just isn't. So I don't know. I mean, if he doesn't find a quarterback, he will be like Belichick without Breeze or without Brady afterwards. If he can't find a quarterback, we saw it this year. Russell Wilson wasn't the quarterback, and the team wasn't very good.
Such is life, though, right? Doesn't matter if you're a rookie coach. Doesn't mean if you're a 50-year coach. Yep. I mean, if you don't have the quarterback, that's it. So I do push back against that a little bit, Phil. And I will say this too, just, being in the know or in the football community, scouting community, whatever, nobody feels bad for Bill Belichick. Okay. Like, the guy has made his bones. He's going to continue to make his bones, just like no one should feel bad for Russ. Folks, Russ is going to get another shot next year. All right. We could sit up here. We could bury him on Wednesday night, or we could call him the best thing ever. It doesn't matter. Someone's going to employ this man, because this position is the hardest position in the world to fill, if you will. That's why the Broncos are having such a hard damn time. Michael Renquillo coming back in with some support. Thanks, Mike. We can't predict what the Broncos' future holds until we see it. And Mike, I love you, man. Sometimes I wish I was more optimistic like Mike. And Tom, maybe that's why I've got you all fired up and why you've got me all fired up. You're usually a lot more reasonable than yours truly. You're usually very patient, calm, cool, collective cat. You're starting to make me nervous because I feel your frustration, Tom. I do. And I feel the fan bases. I'm right there too. And if I'm really putting my fan hat on right now, right? What I asked for Christmas for, I asked for a new Broncos hat with the old school D logo. I want the Broncos to win. I don't want to bury them every Wednesday night. I want my daughter to wear her stuff. I want my wife, who I bought a Russell Wilson jersey for, the first jersey I've ever purchased for her, a Russell Wilson jersey out there at training camp. All right. Like, I want this to work. I wanted this to work. There's no shame in saying that it's not going to work. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting. And I think that's why we're both disappointed, why we're both frustrated, because we've been talking about, too, how long this is going to be bad and how bad this is going to be. Well, sometimes we just need to get through it. We need to stop talking about it. We need to get through it. That time is coming, come hell or high water. Lawrence Rivera coming in here. What's up, guys? I'm just coming in, but I told you, Sean Payton hates Russell Wilson.
Well, there's no doubt about that. He did not like the way Russell Wilson played. Whether he hates him as a person or not, I have no idea. I don't know how you could. He seems like a pretty good guy. He obviously did not like the style of play that Russell Wilson had, and it was just not going to, it obviously just didn't work out.
Lawrence doubling down, man, saying it's never been a quarterback problem. Always a coaching problem. Hell, Drew Lock was one of the best throwers ever in Mile High.
Oh, man.
How that turned out. Lawrence, I've been waiting for this comment, bro. You might have missed us on our live shows. You're a couple weeks late, brother. I gave Drew Lock his flowers a couple weeks ago. That's it. I ain't giving him any more flowers. I set out a nice picture on my social media today at Luke Patterson LP of current or former Broncos quarterbacks that are playing in the league. Drew was up there, so go enjoy that. No, Drew, man, like, I wish him well, but he's not the answer. Don't bring Drew back. Don't bring Flacco back. No, we don't need Case Keenum. I'll pass on Teddy Bridgewater. I know he's retiring, right? Don't need Trevor Siemian. I know he'll be playing tomorrow night for the Jets, right? We'll pass on all those guys, but it is frustrating. It feels like Groundhog's Day. Stu McPeak let us in that fact. Ty Y coming back in. A generous $9.99. I've been a fan for 23 years. I feel like this whole organization is the exact same every year. I'm sick of it. I don't know what's wrong with this organization. In the draft, I feel it's quarterback, D-line, cornerback, inside linebacker, and strong safety. Tom, you opened the show with this exact same level of emotion and frustration, and Ty's exactly right. 23 years Ty's been riding with this team. A lot stayed the same.
Yeah, well, it's been 40 years, a little over 40 years for me. I've seen a lot coming in through this organization. I suffered through some pretty miserable Super Bowl losses and had some down years. This has been the worst. It really has. And I guess that's the problem that I have with it. And I keep saying, everybody keeps after me about, well, we don't know the plan. What is the plan? I mean, the same thing's been happening over and over again. Sean Payton is here to stay. He's here to stay. He's been given a big contract. He's going to have to make some moves. I just, it's unfortunate that we're going to have to sit and watch 4 more years of the same old stuff, because he's going to go get a free agent quarterback unless he thinks Stidham's the guy. He's going to go out and try and patch a hole with this free agent quarterback. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know of any of them out there that I would be too happy with. I know people have been throwing around Baker Mayfield. You want to get frustrated with the quarterback? Baker Mayfield will frustrate the hell out of you. So I don't know what the answer is.
I don't want Baker either.
And to answer your question, I think th're going to have to try and trade or cut Garrett Bowles. So you're going to be looking for a left tackle too, because you're going to have to get under the salary cap some way. That's the problem. You're going to have to get under the salary cap. You were already under it to begin with. You're going to be still under or over the cap to begin with. You're going to be over it, and now you have a lot tied up with a player that's no longer here. So it's going to be some issues.
And to your point, Tom, maybe the punishment continues, and we haven't seen it yet. Maybe you have to trade some players. I'm talking to Justin Simmons. I'm talking to Pat Surtain. I'm talking some of these other guys, right, that we love, that we see as cornerstone pieces. I mean, this is the news today, right? Russell Wilson is benched, potentially on his way out this March. we haven't seen what the ripple effects are yet. We're starting to get glimpses. We're starting to get cracks. And I'll be the first to tell you, here in this sports media world, don't believe everything you read. Don't believe everything you hear per source, right? It's crazy. It's all out there on social media. We're going to start seeing that too, Tom, right? We saw the Seahawks throwing Russ under the bus. We heard Melvin Gordon throwing Russ under the bus. I mean, I think you're going to start seeing some former Broncos maybe coming out. Maybe you hear a Kareem Jackson tidbit. I don't know. Like, you're going to get more little trickles, if you will, of information, but it's frustrating. You know, Russell Wilson in 30 games, he's 11-19, 6,594 passing yards, 42 touchdowns, 19 picks, 6 touchdowns, a whopping 16 fumbles. So it's a tough time. I think Broncos country is going to look back, and this was a dark chapter, to quote one of our friends earlier, in this franchise's history. And I see the question too, you know, who's ultimately to blame? Is it George Payton or is it Sean Payton? Does Russell Wilson have any hand in any of this? And I would say everyone has a hand in this, including Nathaniel Hackett. This was, it didn't work. Okay. Sometimes things just don't work, and it's hard to want to put it all on one person. We do that as human beings, but I think sometimes Russell Wilson ultimately learned the grass isn't always greener. But don't feel bad for Russ, Tom. He's collecting that money. He's getting paid.
I don't feel bad for Russell Wilson at all. I mean, like I said earlier, you know, he's got his money and his fame, and he's got 2 butlers or whatever, whatever he has in his house that we've talked about before on this airways. I don't feel bad for him, but I will say this. People are talking about how Sean Payton, I saw it in the comment, I think it was Todd, said that Sean Payton revived his career. He didn't. Russell Wilson was playing just like he played in Seattle, only a little bit worse. So Sean Payton didn't fix Russell Wilson. Hackett destroyed Russell Wilson last year. Russell Wilson kind of bounced back to about where he was. Sean Payton didn't do him a whole lot of favors, I don't think.
I disagree.
I think he did a little bit with the offense to kind of fix some of his deficiencies, but I don't think he was fully invested in Russell Wilson.
Sean Payton was Russell Wilson's rock this season. That's right. The devil, the same guy that yelled at him in Detroit. What's the first thing Sean Payton did as Broncos head coach? He came out and said, it's not my quarterback that's the problem. It was that guy last year. It was Hackett.
Oh, yeah.
Your point. If that's not doing something for your quarterback, I don't know what is. Russell Wilson had a shield in Sean Payton. The second that Sean Payton got here, Ty Y coming in real quick again. Thank you, Ty. So generous with your support. Anyone saying Sean Payton going to be gone is wrong. He's here to stay. I believe in Sean Payton. I believe in Bowles going to the Bengals, and Pat Surtain will never be traded. You're exactly right, Ty. Sean Payton's going to be here for a while. It's kind of funny to see that that's being hinted at or suggested that maybe Sean Payton's going to be on his way out. I say it's funny, and then Coach actually talks about it today at the presser. He's like, look, this is my job we're talking about here too. I've got to figure this out. So I think Sean understands the pressure that he's in. Sean understood what he signed up for, and that's the expectation. I don't feel bad for Sean Payton either. I don't feel bad for Russ, and I don't feel bad for Sean. Sean's getting paid. Sean chose this job, so he chose this problem in a way, and he had his hand in it. So it's on him, and my expectation of Sean Payton is for him to fix it. Where you're not going to catch me is making excuses for Sean Payton, because Sean Payton has had some bonehead calls in a lot of games this year. We thought he had some bonehead hires, Tom, before the season even started, some bonehead acquisitions. So we're just going to call it like we see it. We appreciate you guys riding with us. Michael Ronquillo weighing in. Great show tonight. Thomas and Luke on the Mile High Insiders, go Broncos, and Phil McLaughlin piggybacking on that. Thank you so much for all of the support, Phil. Really, really appreciate it. Well, what happened to run first and give Russell Wilson a chance to throw deep? Running screens? They've never worked. Why have we not called plays with Russ on RPOs? Like most fourth quarters, the team looks awesome. Many more problems than Russell Wilson. Phil, I agree with you. Tom, tell us about the screens, man. I am so tired of the screens. I mean, I didn't realize the Denver Nuggets were playing at Empower Field. It's just screens galore out there every single game. And Phil's right. They don't work.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty predictable. I thought it was pretty predictable. And that was probably a little bit of, Russ's, inability to make plays from the pocket. So you're trying to mask that a little bit, but there were other ways to mask it, right? It didn't have to be so predictable, right? There were other things that you could have done, like move him out of the pocket, do other things. But I just didn't, it wasn't a good marriage. And look, I know people are down on me. I'm like saying Sean Payton's a terrible coach and all this. He's not a terrible coach. He did some things wrong. He did not make this situation great because he's a little unflexible from my perspective. Thought he had some boneheaded mistakes in game. I mean, the Detroit game, he didn't throw the red flag when he should have. He should have been automatically coming out of his pocket to throw that red flag on those non-called touchdowns. So he didn't. But what I'm saying is Sean Payton could be a good coach. I want to know what the hell they're going to do from here, right? Like, because this is a mess. And I don't know what it's going to be, but that's what's frustrating me the most. And I wasn't sold on Sean Payton to begin with. You knew that. I had my reservations with Sean Payton from the very beginning. Not like some media members who, despised him for some reason. I just had my reservations about him.
Well, and they only despise him because he doesn't do an interview with them. All right, let's just keep it real. When you all see the sour grapes about Sean Payton from Denver media, it's because Sean Payton doesn't like the local media. Let's just say it. He doesn't like anyone in local media. He went after Troy Rank, who was probably the nicest guy in Denver media, after that Packers win or whatever, or it's saying, well, that wasn't our history of losing. He's that guy. So you're exactly right. When you're talking about Russ not being flexible, sometimes Sean hasn't been flexible either. So, I think you're well within your right to have your opinion on Sean, and you should expect a plan. Tom, you don't pay Sean what you pay him to not have a plan. You don't empower him to make these decisions, right? To not have a plan. But I can only speak, and I'm not running a multi-million billion-dollar company, right? But I can tell you, I know when something doesn't work. And I may not have the solution right away to fix it, but sometimes you have to have and know the wherewithal and the circumstance and win to at least plug that and then go find the solution. Just like Naj has been a solution to us and our show with the rest of Broncos country, sounding off on Russell Wilson getting benched. Thank you, Naj, for all the support. I think the silver lining today is we will know a lot about how the locker room feels about Sean Payton this Sunday. They play their butts off and dominate. That's a good sign. They pull what the Chargers did versus the Raiders. Not so good. Tom, I love that comment. That's something we didn't even have time to get into. Is this a rallying cry for the rest of the Denver Broncos, or are they going to check out?
It's possible. I mean, there's no the secret that Russell Wilson wasn't a huge locker room guy, right? I mean, there's rumors around about him not being a great locker room guy. And obviously, I mean, he lives in a different reality than most normal people live in. I mean, it's just that can rub people the wrong way. He wasn't a rah leader. He was more of a super positive. And when things aren't going right, that can be irritating to people for sure. I mean, some people that things are going wrong, you don't want somebody coming in saying everything's going to be great because it will bother you. So it may change the perspective in the locker room. They may go ball out. They have a good chance to show that they can. They're playing a team that's not really that good right now in the Chargers with Easton Stick as their quarterback. So it's possible that they do. I don't know. It will be interesting to see, but I don't want to make a decision based on one game about what this team's going to be, what the makeup of this team is going to be when I just watched a whole season and frankly, several seasons of players who really aren't leaders and don't have a winning mentality really. So that, I mean, I'm not going to make the decision on this one game coming up.
What's the future hold for the Denver Broncos without Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback? That answer we'll know on Sunday. Probably not going to start against those Raiders, a place you've never won in Las Vegas. I will say this, the Raiders are playing out of their mind with that interim head coach, Pierce, right? And Max Crosby still is a madman. They're playing very motivated brand of football. I think they have the same record as the Broncos right now. If memory serves, they may even be one game ahead since they beat the Broncos. I said earlier, what's a successful season look like under Sean Payton? This is way back when he got hired. I said 3-3 in the AFC West. I thought that would be a decent start. I have the possibility of making that happen. Stay tuned. Tom will be back for Legends on Friday, and then you could catch Tom over with Ron on OBV, 6 p.m. Mountain. Broncos for breakfast tomorrow morning with Scott and Nick Kendall. The Mile High Huddle podcast with Chad and Zach will be back tomorrow as well. Guys, head on over to milehighhuddle.com. We've got all of the Broncos news from today, all of the reports. Russell Wilson benched as the starting quarterback, looking at a potential release this March. What a fun show, Tom. You and I were talking before the show even started all day, man. The news and the timing of this is crazy. It's frustrating. But damn, it made for a great show. I love talking with Broncos country.
I had fun, I mean, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm frustrated with this team. And like I said, to open this thing, I'm so frustrated giving, 40 years of my life to a team that just can't get out of their own way now is really tough. And it's like there's no light at the end of the tunnel for me, I guess, is what I'm saying through most of my gibberish that I'm spewing on here. But it is fun to talk about because I enjoy talking with everybody on here. But like I said, it's one of those things where I'm kind of the point where I'm sick of the Broncos. I just really am.
Well, I've got the perfect medicine for you. New year, new Broncos, as the Broncos play the Chargers in Denver on New Year's Eve. Maybe they can get things starting off really good, right? You end your year well in 2023 and you start 2024 off with a win against those Chargers. It will be the season finale. Stay tuned and locked into milehighhuddle.com. Head on over to X, if you will. Give us a follow at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. If you'd like to reach out to Scott, that's at Scout Kennedy. We'd also appreciate a follow for this pod at MHI_pod. Head on over to MHHmerch.com and get your swag on. Broncos country, here we go. Russell Wilson lists. This is the way.
This is the way.